Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for November 20, 2018. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Kammer?
Here.
Carbonell?
Here.
DEYNE?
Present.
GABRENYA?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Ranky?
Present.
President Wallace?
Here. First item we have under committee, and make sure that we keep in mind, especially going through that capital budget, that you're standing between us and Turkey. First committee meeting we have this evening is Community and Economic Development. Chairman GABRENYA.
Thank you, Mr. President. One item on the Community and Economic Development Committee is the Siri Indian Grocery, which has been in business at 947 South Route 59 for the past 6 years. They are looking for, they have filled out a BEDA application, and I would ask Tony to take us through that, please.
Thank you, Chairman GABRENYA. As you mentioned, they've been in business in the Apple Valley Center. That is the strip retail center that hosts Dogfather and Jersey Mike's, among other businesses. Excuse me. They've been there for 6 years, selling grocery items, dry goods of particular interest to the Indian community. As their name suggests, they've had some thoughts over the past few years of expanding their services into providing hot food service that could be delivered or purchased on their premises. I have worked fairly closely over the years with the owner as a patron even, heading over there, and has mentioned to me his desire to do that. When the BEDA program was created this past May, and we published it in the Bartlett in the June issue, Sundar Nukala contacted me about it, stating that it might be just a program that could help him expand his business. So the business is Siri Indian Grocery Store, owned a classic mom and pop business, and there's the mom and pop, Sundar and Lakshmi Nukala, the owners. They've taken on a business partner with extensive experience in the restaurant industry, Jay, I'm going to try to say it, Balasubramanian, who is the owner of Dakshin Indian Restaurant in Schaumburg for the past 18 years. And what they have submitted are some quotes provided by the various contractors that they intend to engage with, where this project of theirs would run in the $75,000 range. They originally requested somewhere between the range of $30,000 to $45,000 for the BEDA program, and keeping in mind that we have several applicants that have already come before you, and a few more that we're anticipating in the coming months. Staff recommends the amount of $15,000 for this BEDA grant. They appeared before the Economic Development Commission back at their August 13th meeting, at which time they recommended in favor of the $15,000. The slight delay from August till now is that we asked them to go ahead and produce a business plan for your consideration for when they come before you. And you can see that included in the packet tonight is a business plan that includes information on their background, their service plan for providing hot food 7 days a week from 10 a.m. till 9 p.m., some information about their equipment, as well as some financial projections. They project that the approximate monthly sales would be about $17,600. And they are here before you. This is Sundar and Lakshmi Nukala there, as well as their newer business partner, Jay. And they're here to answer any questions you may have, as well as any of staff.
What's your existing square footage of your space?
1,400.
1,400 square feet? Okay. All right.
How was the garbage handled? The garbage? Is there a dumpster in the back, or how does that work? Have we had any complaints on that?
No, sir.
No? Okay,
Actually, we are handling that store around 6 years, no complaints.
fantastic.
Thank you.
How would you propose to handle, like, your grease traps and things of that nature? We've had some discussion with another restaurant that's coming into town about having grease traps maintained inside the facility as opposed to outside the facility to keep the smell down and that sort of thing. Do we know anything about that?
We're going to set up a grease trap under our 3-compartment sink. So every 3 to 4 months, like 12 weeks, we do have people who come and clean up those grease traps. So that's way that there is not going to be any smaller or nothing. There's
Nothing goes outside?
nothing going outside. That's not
Nothing
going to
stored outside?
No, nothing stored outside. The only thing, we're not going to have any deep fryer, so we don't need any recycling oil. So we just going to have like regular burners. So we're not going to have we're not going to have any deep fried food. So we're not going to have a fryer. So we're not going to have any like recycling oils. We don't have to do that.
So there's no frying?
No frying, deep frying.
Okay. No roadies? No roadies?
Tony, for those who may not know, can you explain where the BEDA money comes from?
Yes, this is a new line item of $150,000 this year, and we've correlated it with the amount of revenues that the village collects from the video gaming throughout the entire community.
So, are you done? So I kind of envision this as a, similar to Caputo's restaurant, or Caputo's grocery store. So you go in there, they have hot food that you can just you can carry out. Similar to that, right?
You know, one thing to note, Mayor, it's actually strikingly similar to a current business that we have in town on the other side of Stearns Road, a Polish deli that's been there for well over 10 years.
Yeah.
Similar square footage, similar line, similar amount of grocer.
Yeah. And is it all vegetarian food?
No veg and meat, like no goat and chicken going to.
Oh, so meat, okay. That seems like an awfully high estimate of meals. The average meal maybe $10, so you're talking 57 meals a day, every day of the week?
Yes,
In your business plan?
Actually, we had like a weekly for like a 4,000 to 5,000 to we can generate on the week, every week on the food service.
I just kind of hesitate when it comes to the viability of ramping up that quickly. I think it'll take some time to get to that number of meals a day.
It's
We're going to have some competition, I think, pretty soon, too, with the other Indian restaurant going in, right?
Yes, that's going to open in the next couple of weeks.
It's not really the same location, though. It's clear on the other side of town.
Right. Yeah, they're in Westgate Commons.
Okay. I'm all for the expansion of the business, so, anybody else have any?
I agree. I have no further comments.
We'll move it to next board meeting for a vote?
Meeting, yeah.
Yep, I think next board meeting, it'll go to a vote. Yep, thank you. Appreciate you expanding your business in Bartlett. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman GABRENYA. The next item we have this evening is, on our committee agenda is Finance and Golf Committee, Chairman DEYNE.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item we have on our agenda this evening is the proposed capital budget, and I'm going to ask Todd to,
Speed read.
yes, speed read.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. That was very good. You're done now.
When we rehearsed this, Todd, you took 5 minutes. So.
Good. I'm glad that you all had a chance to read it. And I'll just give you the highlights here, right? This is our 5-year capital project, and the reason why we do this is so that Dan and the Public Works can get started early, getting the bids out, get better prices, and get started when the fiscal year starts. The 1920 year will roll right into our budget. It's called the capital budget. And that, the 1920 year accounts for $20,951,176. The detail for that year is in the tables and charts section, page 10, if you want to go down every item. So you just flip back from, it's probably, yeah, page 10 gives the detail. But we're not going to go over all of those. Most of those items you're familiar with. We're going to have Dan go over some of the new projects that are included. Some of them are in this year's budget, some of them are not. They go on to a later budget. Again, there's going to be 4 new projects added. The first one is going to be downtown crosswalks. We're going to have Dan explain that.
All right. This one would take care of the downtown crosswalks where we put in the ADA crosswalks where you see the red with the truncated domes and all that, so that the whole downtown would meet ADA requirements. The big expenses we also included with that project was the PED gates at Oak for pedestrians. We've got the gates for the road, but we don't have it for the pedestrians. That's the major expense there. We did apply for an RTA grant. However, we just recently found out that we did not get that. So we're looking at applying for some other grants. This project is contingent upon getting those grants, so it will not move forward unless we get grants. So that's what we're looking at doing with that project.
What type of grant money are you anticipating?
Well, the one that RTA grant it's a 80-20 split, 20%. But if it would have went through the RTA, they were going to pick up 10% of the 20%. So we really were hoping to get that. However, it didn't really meet all the requirements that they wanted, so it didn't score highly enough. But there's a few other things that we're looking at to try to get some grants. It might not be as good as cost sharing as that, but hopefully we can find several different ones that we'd be able to put together. The next project is the Oak Street parking lot. This is the newly acquired lot just south of Banbury Fair's lot. It's basically maximizing that lot for parking. So we'd be looking at, I believe we're somewhere in the 40 parking stalls is what we're looking at. Any questions on that one?
Would these be free parking spaces for the village use, or what are we doing with that? Do we know?
I think that's all to be determined, but I think the plan right now is free public parking. It's whether we need any for employee parking or not, but right now it's not planned for commuter parking or anything like that. The next project is Lake Street frontage. That project, that right-of-way currently is owned by IDOT. With the Route 59 and Lake Street intersection improvement, they approached us and said, you know, when we're done with this project, would the village be interested in taking over that roadway? So they would dedicate that right-of-way to us after the project's done, which will be sometime next year. We were proposing, if you've been out there, it doesn't have any curb or gutter or anything like that. We're looking at potential development in that area, so we were figuring that would need to be brought up to more of our village standard.
What's their estimated finish date there at Lake Street? Do you know?
Right now, they actually have, right around Christmas is what they're trying to get the road improvements done.
There was just a big accident there today, right?
Oh, yeah. I did not hear about that one.
Right by it, yeah.
So they're hoping to get, the weather has definitely hampered. I mean, winter came early, so they're trying to get the road improvements done by the end of the year. They'll have cleanup work outside, all the restoration, all that stuff will have to get completed, but we're hoping to get at least the majority of the road improvements completed this year. Schick Road, West Branch Bridge, that's one that we have to have our bridges inspected, and the latest inspection showed that that is in, or is going to need to be redone in the near future. So this would be kind of step one, get an engineering study to really look at what is needed, and then start getting it scheduled into our capital program, because that'll be a fairly significant project as we get into it.
I thought we just did that project.
Yeah.
We did some, well, we did the Schick over the railroad tracks this year, and the one on Struckman. Those were the two that we just completed. This one, I think we've done some surface stuff on it, but this is all underneath, more in the guts of the support itself, where some of the rebar is starting to fall through. So it's something that we're going to have to address. We may have to, IDOT may force us to post it at some point with the weight limit. We're not at that point right now, but that's why I think we need to make sure that we start getting it on the books, because we're going to need to do some work there.
And how long does a project like that take? Would we have to close down the road, or?
To be determined. Hopefully we'll be able to do half at a time and keep it. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy build whenever you do a bridge. You see what they're doing on Lake Street right now, but it'll definitely have to have some lane closures and that type of thing. So.
That's it for the new projects. We're just going to give you an update on some of the major ongoing projects.
Water infrastructure, that's our Lake Michigan water coming. We've been updating on that pretty regularly. Right now, where we're at, the 30-inch water main is in place. They are done with that. They're doing more cleanup stuff now. Hopefully, they'll be getting Bittersweet paved. We're hoping on Friday. It's been a battle zone out there, but the weather hasn't been cooperative. The temperatures are supposed to be about 40 degrees for you to pave, so we haven't really had that. Right now, it looks like 40s on Friday. So we have a progress meeting tomorrow. We're hoping they've been doing a lot of cleanup, getting it ready, so that's what we're anticipating. They actually poured this weekend. They poured the curb in preparation for that. J.J. Henderson's been working on the receiving station, and they started digging the hole for the metering station, so those are moving along. They've been pouring concrete. They're getting ready to start working on the first reservoir out there, so that project is moving along. And the 24-inch water main that's going to head west from Bittersweet is planned to start next week. So we've been putting the word out that Stearns Road, again, is going to be down to one lane with flaggers, and that's going to be for quite a while because they have to get all the way to South Bartlett Road. And then the first week of December, the contractor that's going to do the directional drilling out by Apple Orchard will also get started. So there'll be a lot of activity on Stearns Road. West of South Bartlett, there'll be some temporary lane closures, but that's wide enough that we should be able to keep two-way construction, and most of that's out into, or to the north into the park property. So we're away from the road there. And then the contractor installing the 12-inch at Villa Olivia has been moving along on that project as well. So we're full steam ahead at this point. Any questions on that?
So is this the area that we'd be discussing infrastructure associated with water transition? Is this what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, the Lake Michigan water, yep.
So there's under descriptions, it says, I'm just for clarification, I just don't know why we'd be buying this land or if we have to. It says 1 million gallon elevated water storage tank and land for pump station and storage tank. Is this land we have to acquire or buy, or where are we going to put this? Where are we going to get this land?
We've been in discussions with Brewster Creek Business Park for property there for an elevated tower. So we still have to work that out. That project's out probably a few years right now. But that's the area that we are looking at, kind of south of the fire station area is where we've been looking at.
Okay, all right. I was just curious about that.
Devon Excess Flow, you are also familiar with that project. That one, you'll see an engineering contract coming probably, if not the next meeting, the following. We're moving along. We're expecting the draft IGA with MWRD any day now. So that will also be coming to the board shortly. What I believe we've agreed to at this point is rebuilding their existing lift station at Devon and Berteau, building 4 million gallon storage down at our Devon site, and abandoning the Devon wastewater treatment plant. So what that means to us is that permit that we currently have with the IEPA that we were in violation of goes away. So we no longer would have a permit for theirs. So long-term, that's a very good thing, because as the EPA changes their limits, at that point, it doesn't affect us because we're pumping everything to MWRD. So that's a good project. The plan is to get that completed by the end of September 2020, which is when that permit would kick in and be renewed. So that's the goal there. So we have a lot of work to get done. That's why we want to get started on the engineering shortly. Any questions on that one?
I thought at one point MWRD couldn't handle that amount of flow.
That's why they're having us put in the 4 million gallons. It
Okay.
allows them to give a buffer, you know.
So
if
you
they
can
have issues.
regulate how much they're getting at a time.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the last one is Bittersweet wastewater treatment plant. That's been on the books we've been working on that. We've completed the facility plan and all that. We've had some time on that. So we've been able to focus on the Lake Michigan and Devon, but this one's quickly going to approach us with the new phosphorus limits in early 2020s. So we're going to most likely be looking to start the engineering on this later this winter, because it's about a year's worth of design work. And then the engineer is saying that this could be like a 3-year construction project. So you're looking at 4 years of work to get done. So it's a lot of work to get done. So we got to get that ball rolling shortly as well. And that's pretty much rehabbing the entire facility, making some changes so that we can meet that phosphorus limit when it gets added to our permit. Any questions on that one? That's all I have.
Okay, that is it for our high-level review of the new projects, the major projects. So what we'll do is, next meeting, we'll bring a resolution to approve the $20 million for the 1920 year that will roll into our operating budget for the 1920 year.
Well, actually, I know we did abbreviated form, but as I went through this, I did have a couple of questions on things. If we could go back a little bit. I'm just curious how it is when we talk about the water towers, how it is that, if I can get to the page that it's on, where was that? How it is that we're spending the different prices per year, and there's such a large discrepancy between year. I mean, I know they're water towers, but, you're talking almost double for, from 1920 to 2021, 375,000 to 725,000. Why is this so much?
The big difference there is Main Street is the one right here, so it's a ground storage. It's relatively low.
Right.
So the risk is a lot less, therefore the costs go way down, and it's not as big. The Oneida one is on the north side. That's got all the legs, so your surface area is a lot larger. We actually bid this one, if you remember, 3 or 4 years ago, we actually put this out to bid, and it came in higher than the budget that we had, and we ended up saying, let's not do it right now, we'll postpone. It's still needed, and that's a big ticket item. And it's mainly because it's up in the air and every leg, I mean, all that surface area all has to get blasted. It's gonna have the curtain just like we did at Villa Olivia, because it's got lead paint. So it has to get blasted to bare steel and then repainted.
Is the one for 1819, is that Villa Olivia right there, 535?
Yep.
That's what it run?
Yep.
It just seemed like we were getting way up there on these. I just thought,
Yeah, the most expensive one is that, and then the 22, 23, that's the Schick Tower. That one also had, I mean, that's a different style tower, but it's got the large base that goes all the way up. And it's one of our biggest towers, so it just has a big surface area.
any chance that we will eventually cost us less than that? I mean, I guess, or is this pretty much a done deal that we would be spending this much money on those?
We hope that once we get them blasted, you might be able to do a top coat the next time around, because you've already blasted it down to steel, and that would bring the cost way down. It's still, I mean, it is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Okay.
Is that all sand blasting or is it vapor blasting?
sandblast.
Sand, because you have to get the whole, how many layers are on, is there just one, have they
Oh,
only?
no, they got,
When was the last time it was blasted?
some of these, I don't know that they've been blasted yet, because they've got the lead paints.
That's the most expensive part.
Right. Yeah, once you have to put the curtain on and bring it all down to bare metal, it gets expensive. And that's why I'm saying, like Villa Olivia, hopefully we don't have to touch that for 15-plus years. And at that point, we might be able to just do depending on how the paint is, you might be able to do a wash on it, do a touch-up, and then just do a top.
Are the structures built out of the same material? Like, the whole thing is the same material?
They're all steel, yep.
They're all just regular steel?
And one of the other things I had, Dan, was that I'm getting to it. How many salt buildings do we have currently?
Currently, we have one at Public Works and one at Devon, and the reason we have that on the list is with that 4 million gallons that we have to build for the Devon project with MWRD, it's where that salt storage is, so that salt storage is gonna go away. So the thought is to add a salt storage down at Public Works.
So we're not building an extra one, we're just replacing the one that we have.
Correct.
I see. Okay, that makes better sense. And
Just for that, right now we have 2 different sites, so you have to have 2 different end loaders there. We thought by moving it to Public Works and just keeping it there, we can get away with having to rent the extra end loader.
all right, and then one last thing was that apparently we were going to do something to survey the sewer systems as well, and I was just curious, we had a cost of like surveying 95 miles, and there was an estimated of 19,500, which I didn't think was exorbitant. I thought we had a piece of equipment that we bought, that we did the surveying of these pipes and stuff ourselves, and I just was curious what that, it was on page 11, of what that surveying estimate was. Why do we have an extra cost if we already have the machine to send through the pipes to survey what's going on?
That's actually the water main leak survey. So that's going through and testing our mains. They basically listen for leaks. We actually just got done doing we did half of the town last year and the other half this year.
Right.
We don't have that equipment. I think the equipment you're talking about is our televising equipment. That's for sewers.
Okay.
So we could put that through the sewer, we can check and see if there's issues. On the
Right.
water main side, because you got you really can't get inside the pipe, they have equipment that basically can listen for leaks, and then they can pinpoint where that leak is at. They gave us a list of all those. We've actually made those repairs ourselves, and our unaccounted for water loss we've seen a big benefit there. And that was necessary because part of joining up to the Lake Michigan through our IDNR allocation, they have a requirement that your unaccounted for is 10% or less. So now we're at that point, so.
All right. That was all my questions.
I'd like to make mention of the bike path maintenance. I've seen, it looks like our construction costs are flat over the next 5 years. And I would strongly encourage us to start increasing that. In fact, I think that's one of your comments, that we believe the amount needs to be increased in order to keep up with the nearly 15 miles of bike path we have. I mean, I understand that we have that 50-50 program with the Park District, but I certainly think that we can start ramping up our costs and getting a little bit more done. I do note, too, that you had the Public Works crew go out and do the pipeline back this last year.
Correct.
So, and I actually got a number of compliments from the residents because they were excited to see the Public Works guys, quote-unquote guys out there doing the work, and they knew that that would save the village money. So that's a tremendous saving. So I understand that then our $20,000 a year goes a little bit further because we're doing the work in-house. But I think we should start increasing what we spend on the maintenance of the bike paths and even start about talking about extension.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
One thing I can add,
The Park District is really not giving us, I mean, they're not meeting what we're putting into it. They're only giving us like $10,000, I think, right? So I don't know about the 50-50.
Well, that's not what it
well, that's
says
what
here.
it was we're going back to last year, we were only at 20, so it was 10 and 10.
Right.
This year, we had asked them to go to 20 and 20, but they weren't able to do it this year. We'll be asking them again. But again, with our crews doing it, this 40,000 goes much further.
Right.
A lot, we'll get down to how much time do our guys have available to be able to get a lot of that done. But if it's our crews doing it, that won't be able to get a lot. But I don't disagree that we're going to need to do more. One thing we are also looking at doing is doing seal coating of paths once we get it done so they last longer. And one thing that will help with the water main that's going on Stearns Road, a lot of that is going to get torn up, so we're going to get a new path. You know, because of that project, we're going to be getting new paths for a big portion of the Stearns Road bike path next spring when the asphalt plants open up again.
Okay, so when I look at the chart and it says estimated 1819, source general fund and Park District where it says $20,000 for each, that's not.
That's not in stone yet.
Okay. And I thought we had an IGA with the Park District on this. Or is that not the case?
Not the case.
Not the case.
Not
It's a handshake type of thing.
Yes.
Okay. So that they chose not to meet the $20,000 commitment. Okay.
They decided that they could only afford 10,000 this year.
All right.
And we raised our portion, but they stayed the same. So I absolutely agree with Trustee Ranky. I think it's, the Bike and Run Committee has been pushing to have more funds coming in for years now, and, you know, the more we get coming in, the more we can get done. So, yeah, it'd be great.
And we'll continue to talk to the Park District to see if they can raise their share to match ours.
Thank you.
How does other communities handle bike paths?
I think all different.
What was that?
I think it's all different. Everybody's in that same boat. They can have an agreement with the Park District. They'll try to cost share that. Otherwise, they're, you know, putting it in their budgets, and whether they're doing the work, I think that's fairly rare. Not every town has a paving machine like we do, but most are probably contracting it out, hiring a contractor and getting it done, or they're letting them go, like, you know, so many of them, where they get to the point where they're really bad and then they have to do something. So I'm hoping that we can start getting these paths done, do some of that preventative maintenance, that we can try to keep them in good shape for a longer period.
Do most municipalities have an IGA with the Park District?
That I don't know for sure. We'd have to do a survey and find out what groups have. I think most towns have, a lot of those bike paths are theirs. If it's on park property, the park property, the park district takes care of that, but if it's off of park property, from what I'm familiar with, most of those are the villages then to take care of.
Thank you.
I would agree with that, where I represent the Schaumburg Park District. It's the village has most of those paths, except for the paths on the Park District property.
Well, we certainly shouldn't wait on the Park District to take care of our bike paths.
No, it's a vital part of the beauty and the safety of our community, so, yeah.
Do we know which roads we're going to be resurfacing or which subdivisions? Yeah.
I'll let Bobby, I believe we're doing Beaver Pond area?
We are. We're doing Beaver Pond. We've got some of Stearns Road in there we're going to cover, and then some isolated things in the older section of town. The biggest one, there's a couple up on the north side too. Timberline is one. I forgot, that was an important one. I think that covers it all. The Beaver Pond area is the biggest area, though.
All right.
That'll take the most time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Thank you, Chairman Daney. Next item on our committee agenda this evening is under license and ordinance. Chairman Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we need to discuss the 2019 annual meetings schedule. And I don't know, does the staff, does Paula, do you have anything to comment on this? I mean, other than what I talked to you earlier?
I just wanted to mention that we're anticipating doing the budget reviews within our regular committee schedule. So we're not going to have that extra meeting in between that we usually do for budget review. That will not be happening. I would like a little clarification on, would you like us to start review early like we do with dinner, start early, and then kind of bookend it in between the board meetings? Like we normally do. We start early, we have the budget review, we have the board meeting, and then we go to committee and kind of continue that. If that's all right with you, that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, I like it when it's the first thing, just to keep it fresh.
So we're starting then more like 5:30? With that, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, we'll have dinner at 5:30, we'll start review at 6, we'll go from 6 to 7, we'll have the board meeting, and then we'll move into committee and continue the review. Great.
That's good to me.
Great. That was the only real change to the schedule, other than what we've got listed for you.
Any other discussion on the annual meeting schedule? And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chairman Camera. That I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Camera, seconded by Trustee Daney. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Camera?
Yes.
Carbonell?
Yes.
Daney?
Yes.
GABRENYA?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.